The flash of light was blinding, followed by searing heat against Alex Powell's face as the munitions container exploded. One moment, he was securing supply crates in the cargo bay of the interstellar transport ship Meridian, and the next he was sailing through the air, his body slammed against the metal bulkhead. Time seemed to slow as he watched, almost detached, as shrapnel tore through the sleeve of his uniform and into the flesh beneath. The ship's emergency alarms blared, red warning lights flashing across the bay. Alex blinked, his ears ringing from the explosion. He tried to push himself up with both arms, but only his right one responded. Turning his head slowly, he looked to his left, and what he saw didn't immediately register. Where his left arm should have been, there was now only a ragged, bloody stump ending just below his elbow. "That's not good," he mumbled, surprising himself with how calm he sounded. The cargo bay doors slid open, and 3 figures rushed in. Through his increasingly blurry vision, Alex recognized them as the Volari medical team stationed on the Meridian for this transport mission. Their slender blue-green bodies moved with practiced efficiency, their 4-fingered hands already preparing emergency equipment. "Human injured," called the tallest one, whose name Alex vaguely remembered was Tenrel. "Significant trauma to upper limb." Alex felt himself getting lightheaded as the adrenaline began to wear off and the pain started to register. Still, he managed a weak smile as the alien medics reached him. "It's just a flesh wound," he said, attempting to sound nonchalant despite the pool of blood spreading beneath him. The 3 Volari medics froze, their large almond-shaped eyes blinking rapidly in what Alex recognized as their species' expression of shock. The smallest one, Savar, tilted his elongated head. "Human Powell, you are missing approximately 47% of your left upper limb," Savar stated, his translator making his voice sound metallic and precise. "This is a severe injury requiring immediate medical intervention." Alex tried to laugh, but it came out as more of a gurgle. "Ever watched Monty Python? No. Human joke. Not important right now." The third medic, Errol, was already applying a compression field to the wound, blood pressure dropping rapidly, beginning emergency transfusion protocol. Alex felt himself being lifted onto a hover stretcher, the ceiling of the cargo bay sliding past his view as they rushed him toward the medical bay. His vision was tunneling now, darkness creeping in at the edges. "Hey," he managed weakly, "will I still get paid for today?" "Technically, I was still on the clock when this happened." "Human humor during severe physical trauma," Tenrel noted clinically, though his voice contained a hint of what might have been concern. "Fascinating psychological response." The medical bay doors slid open with a hiss. Alex caught glimpses of advanced equipment, much of it designed for multiple species. The Meridian was a joint human-alien venture, one of the first of its kind, transporting essential supplies to the frontier colonies. The ship had been outfitted with medical facilities capable of handling emergencies for the dozen different species that made up its crew. "Preparing vascular sealant," Errol announced, his 4-fingered hands moving with remarkable dexterity over Alex's mangled arm. "Pain suppression field active," Savar added, positioning a humming device over Alex's chest. The edges of Alex's vision were darkening further, but he was determined to stay conscious. "So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is this really?" Tenrel looked down at him, the Volari's facial ridges contracting in what Alex had learned was their expression of seriousness. "Human pain scale is irrelevant. You have lost a significant portion of your limb, and your circulatory system is currently in shock. Without immediate intervention, you would experience complete system failure in approximately 6 minutes. So, a 7, Alex attempted to joke, but his voice was barely audible now. The next few moments passed in a blur as the Volari medical team worked to stabilize him. Alex drifted in and out of consciousness, catching fragments of technical medical terminology that his translator struggled to process. Vascular regeneration protocol initiated. Cellular matrix unstable. Human physiology showing unexpected resilience. When Alex finally regained full consciousness, the bright lights of the medical bay made him squint. He was lying on a bio bed, various monitoring devices attached to his chest and right arm. He turned his head slowly to the left, steeling himself for what he might see. His left arm ended in a sealed, transparent medical sleeve just below the elbow. Within the sleeve, he could see a pulsing biogel surrounding what remained of his arm. The pain was remarkably dull, more of a persistent throb than the searing agony he had expected. "Ah, human Powell has regained consciousness," came Tenrel's voice from the other side of the room. The tall Volari approached the bed, data pad in hand. "Your vital signs have stabilized, though you experienced significant blood loss." Alex tried to sit up but found himself surprisingly weak. "How long was I out?" "Approximately 6 hours, 43 minutes and 12 seconds, Tenrel replied with typical Volari precision. "The explosion in Cargo Bay 3 damaged several vital systems as well as your arm. Captain Morneau has diverted our course to Outpost Helios for additional medical support." "Helios?" Alex frowned. "That's a Volari medical station, isn't it?" "Correct. It is the nearest facility with advanced regenerative capabilities suitable for human physiology." Tenrel's eyes blinked rapidly, which Alex knew indicated either excitement or nervousness. "Your injury presents a unique opportunity for our medical teams. We have limited experience with human limb regeneration." Alex let his head fall back onto the pillow. "So I'm a guinea pig now." Tenrel's translator crackled as it attempted to process the idiom. "If you refer to being an experimental subject, that is not accurate. The techniques are well established, but cross-species application is still evolving." Savar entered the medical bay, carrying a tray of equipment. "Human Powell, your resilience is remarkable. Most species would have entered systemic shock much more rapidly with such an injury." "Yeah, we're full of surprises," Alex muttered. "So what's the prognosis, Doc? Will I play the piano again?" Both Volari looked at him with blank expressions. "Another human joke," Alex explained wearily. "I couldn't play piano before, so—" "Ah, ironic humor regarding skill acquisition," Savar noted, sounding genuinely interested. "Fascinating. To answer your actual question, we anticipate full functionality can be restored through regenerative therapy, though the process will take approximately 28 Earth days." Alex looked again at his sealed stump. "You can regrow my arm." "Not precisely regrow in the biological sense," Tenrel clarified. "The Helios facility will construct a biosynthetic replacement using your genetic material as a template. The neural pathways will be grown from your existing nervous system, ensuring complete integration. And I'll be able to use it normally. No robot arm or anything. It will be indistinguishable from your original limb in both appearance and function," Savar assured him, "though the cellular structure will contain certain enhancements for durability." Alex closed his eyes, suddenly feeling very tired. "Well, that's something at least." "Rest now," Tenrel said, adjusting something on one of the monitors. "We will reach Outpost Helios in approximately 14 hours. As Alex drifted back to sleep, he heard the Volari medics discussing his case in their native language, their translator apparently switched off. Even without understanding the words, he could detect the tone of scientific curiosity in their voices. He was, after all, the first human to undergo their advanced regenerative procedures. The journey to Outpost Helios passed in a haze of medically induced sleep and brief periods of wakefulness. Each time Alex opened his eyes, one of the Volari medics was nearby, monitoring his condition and asking him questions about his pain levels and sensation in his partial limb. When they finally arrived, Alex was moved to a specially prepared transport pod. Through the transparent covering, he could see the gleaming white and blue structure of Outpost Helios against the backdrop of space. The station was massive, its central hub surrounded by extending arms that housed various medical facilities. "Prepare for docking," came Captain Morno's voice over the ship's communication system. "Medical team standby for patient transfer." As they approached the docking bay, Alex got his first look at the receiving medical team. Unlike the Volari aboard the Meridian, who wore standard ship uniforms adapted to their physiology, these medical professionals were dressed in elaborate biocontainment suits that covered their slender bodies entirely. "Why the hazmat outfits?" Alex asked Tenril, who was preparing him for transfer. "Standard protocol for interspecies medical procedures," the medic explained. "Your biology is different from ours. Precautions are necessary to prevent cross-contamination." Alex frowned. "Is that really necessary? We've been traveling together on the Meridian for months without issues." "Ship protocols are different from medical facility standards," Savar added, entering final data into Alex's medical file. "The regenerative process involves genetic manipulation at a cellular level. The containment is as much for your protection as for the facilities." The docking procedure completed with a slight jolt, and soon the transfer team entered the Meridian's medical bay. Their leader, a Volari taller than Tenril with distinctive purple markings on his bio-suit, approached Alex's bed. "I am Chief Medical Officer Zavar," he introduced himself, his voice slightly muffled by his containment suit. "We have prepared for your arrival, Human Powell. Your case is of great interest to our research division." "Glad to be of service," Alex replied dryly. "Though I would have preferred a less painful way to contribute to science." Zavar's head tilted in what might have been amusement. "Indeed, your resilience is already noteworthy. Our initial assessments based on the data from the Meridian's medical team suggest you may be an ideal candidate for our accelerated regeneration protocol." Alex was transferred to a hovering medical pod, which sealed around him with a soft hiss. Through the transparent covering, he watched as they moved through the docking area and into the station proper. The corridors were wide and brightly lit, with various medical personnel, most of them Volari, but occasionally members of other species moving efficiently about their tasks. They arrived at a large chamber that Alex assumed would be his home for the next few weeks. The room was circular, with a central medical platform surrounded by various sophisticated pieces of equipment. The walls were lined with monitoring screens displaying data in multiple languages, including, Alex noted with relief, English. "This is our primary regeneration chamber," Zavar explained as the pod opened, and Alex was carefully transferred to the central platform. "It is equipped with the most advanced biosynthetic integration technology in the quadrant." A team of 6 Volari medical specialists moved around him, preparing various instruments and calibrating the equipment. Alex noticed that each of them wore a slightly different colored suit, presumably indicating their specialized role in the procedure. "So what exactly is the process?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice steady as one of the specialists removed the protective sleeve from his partial arm, exposing the sealed wound to the air for the first time. Xaver gestured to a large screen displaying what appeared to be a detailed three-dimensional model of a human arm. First, we will map your genetic structure and nervous system pathways. Then, using your biological material as a template, we will grow a biosynthetic framework that will serve as the scaffold for your new limb. Another specialist, this one in a green-tinted suit, approached with a device that looked somewhat like a handheld scanner. This will create a precise model of your existing cellular structure, the specialist explained, moving the device over Alex's injured arm and then over his intact right arm for comparison. "Will it hurt?" Alex asked, unable to keep the apprehension from his voice. "You will experience some discomfort during the neural mapping," Xaver admitted. "But we have developed specialized analgesics compatible with human physiology. The actual regeneration process should be relatively painless, though you may experience sensations similar to what your species calls phantom limb syndrome as the new neural pathways form." A specialist in a blue suit approached with a tray containing several vials of luminescent liquid. "These are the biosynthetic initiators," she explained. "They will prepare your remaining tissue to accept the new cellular matrix." As the team continued their preparations, Alex found himself becoming increasingly anxious. "You've done this before, right? With humans, I mean." There was a brief pause in activity, during which the specialists exchanged glances that even through their faceplates, Alex could tell were significant. "We have successfully applied this technology to 17 different species," Xaver finally said. "While human physiology presents unique challenges, our simulations indicate a 93% probability of complete success." "And the other 7%?" Alex asked, his mouth suddenly dry. "Minor complications that would require additional procedures," Xaver assured him, though something in his tone made Alex suspect he wasn't getting the full picture. Before he could press further, the specialist with the scanner completed her work. "Genetic mapping complete. Neural pathway structure identified." Xaver nodded. "Excellent. Prepare the first phase of the integration serum." Alex watched as they mixed various compounds from the tray, creating a solution that glowed with an otherworldly blue light. As they prepared to administer it through a specialized injector, he couldn't help but think of all the science fiction movies he'd watched as a kid, where experimental procedures on humans invariably went horribly wrong. "Last chance to back out," he muttered to himself. Xaver heard him. "There are alternatives, human Powell. Mechanical prosthetics are well developed even by your species standards. However, they would never provide the same level of function and sensation as the limb we can create for you." Alex took a deep breath. "No, I want to go through with this. It's just a lot to process." "Understandable," Xaver said, with what seemed like genuine empathy. "We will proceed at a pace that allows you to adjust psychologically as well as physically." The blue-suited specialist approached with the injector. "This will establish the foundation for the new cellular matrix. You may feel a warming sensation as it integrates with your existing tissue." Alex nodded, bracing himself as the injector was placed against what remained of his left arm. There was a soft hiss, and then a spreading warmth that quickly intensified to an almost burning sensation. He gritted his teeth, determined not to cry out. "Remarkable pain tolerance," one of the specialists noted clinically. "Most species require sedation for this phase." "Do you want something for the pain?" Xaver asked, watching Alex's vital signs on a nearby monitor. "I'm fine," Alex managed, though beads of sweat had formed on his forehead. "It's just a flesh wound, remember?" This elicited what might have been a chuckle from Xaver. "Your species' use of humor as a coping mechanism is fascinating. However, there is no value in enduring unnecessary pain. We can administer a neural blocker that will reduce the sensation without affecting your consciousness. Before Alex could respond, the burning sensation intensified dramatically, sending sharp pains shooting up into his shoulder and down his side. This time, he couldn't suppress a gasp of pain. Administering neural blocker, the blue-suited specialist announced, not waiting for his consent. Almost immediately, the pain subsided to a dull throb. Alex let out a shaky breath. "Thanks." "The initial phase is often the most uncomfortable," Xaver explained. "Your body is preparing to accept the new cellular structure. The next stage will begin the actual regeneration process." Over the next few hours, Alex watched in fascination as the team worked. They applied various compounds to his arm, each seeming to serve a specific purpose in the complex regeneration process. Occasionally, they would show him the monitoring screens, explaining how the new cellular matrix was beginning to form. "See here." Xaver pointed to a magnified image that showed what looked like a skeletal framework gradually taking shape at the end of his arm. "The biosynthetic bone structure is already forming. It binds with your existing bone cells, creating a seamless connection." Despite the clinical setting and the strange sensation of watching his own arm being rebuilt, Alex found himself increasingly intrigued by the process. The Volari medical team, initially formal and reserved, became more animated as they worked, clearly excited by the success of their techniques on a human subject. By the end of the first day, the basic structure of his new forearm was visible, a translucent framework that resembled the shape of a human arm but was clearly still in development. It was both fascinating and unsettling to see. "The process will continue while you sleep," Xaver explained as the team prepared to move Alex to a recovery room. "The cellular generation accelerates during rest periods, which is consistent with your species' natural healing patterns." Alex was transferred to a smaller room adjacent to the main chamber. Though still clinical in design, efforts had been made to make it more comfortable, with adjustable lighting and a view screen that could display various calming images. "Rest now," Xaver instructed as the team finished setting up monitoring equipment around Alex's bed. "Tomorrow, we will begin the neural integration phase, which requires your conscious participation." Exhausted from the day's procedures and still processing the reality of his situation, Alex fell into a deep sleep almost immediately. His dreams were vivid and strange, filled with images of his arm rebuilding itself cell by cell, like a time-lapse video of a growing plant. When he awoke the next morning, or what passed for morning on a space station with no natural day-night cycle, Alex was startled to see that the translucent framework of his new arm had developed significantly overnight. What had been a ghostly outline now had more definition, with visible muscle structures beginning to form around the artificial bone. "Remarkable progress," Xaver noted, entering the room with two other specialists. "Your cellular integration rate exceeds our projections by 23%. Alex stared at his partial new arm. "It looks alien." "The appearance is temporary," one of the specialists assured him. "As the external dermal layer forms, it will take on the characteristics of your natural skin, including pigmentation and texture." "Today, we begin neural pathway integration," Xaver explained, gesturing for the specialists to prepare their equipment. "This is perhaps the most critical phase, as it will determine how effectively you can control the new limb." The process was unlike anything Alex had experienced before. For hours, he sat on the medical platform while the specialists attached various sensors to both his intact right arm and his partially regenerated left one. They would stimulate a point on his right arm, then attempt to create a corresponding sensation in the new limb. "Move your fingers," one specialist instructed, referring to the fingers that were only partially formed on his new hand. Alex concentrated, focusing on the memory of how it felt to wiggle his fingers. To his amazement, the translucent digits twitched slightly. "Excellent!" Xaver exclaimed, genuinely excited. Neural pathway formation is proceeding optimally. The tests continued throughout the day, gradually becoming more complex as Alex learned to control the developing limb. By evening, he could make basic movements with the new arm, though they were still clumsy and limited. "Your progress is exceptional," Xaver told him as they concluded the day's procedures. "At this rate, you may achieve functional recovery significantly faster than our initial estimate of 28 days. The next several days followed a similar pattern. Each morning, Alex would wake to find his new arm more developed than the day before. The neural integration sessions grew longer and more detailed, as he learned to control increasingly complex movements and began to experience sensations through the new limb. By the end of the first week, the basic structure of the arm was complete, though it still lacked final detail and full functionality. The translucent quality had begun to fade as skin cells formed over the muscle structure, gradually taking on the color and texture of Alex's natural skin. "The regeneration is proceeding more rapidly than anticipated," Xaver informed him during a morning assessment. "Your body's acceptance of the biosynthetic matrix is unprecedented in our experience with non-Volari species." "Lucky me," Alex replied, flexing his new fingers and watching in fascination as they responded almost naturally to his mental commands. "So what's the new timeline?" "At the current rate of integration, we project full functional recovery within 14 to 16 days, rather than the initial 28. However," Xaver added, his tone becoming more serious, "we have observed some anomalies in the cellular structure that require monitoring." Alex's moment of optimism faded. "What kind of anomalies?" Xaver gestured to one of the specialists, who brought up a magnified image of what appeared to be cells from Alex's new arm. "The biosynthetic cells are replicating at an accelerated rate, which is beneficial for the regeneration process. However, they are also showing signs of adaptation beyond our programmed parameters." "Meaning what exactly?" Alex asked, a knot forming in his stomach. "Nothing concerning at this stage," Xaver assured him, though his tone wasn't entirely convincing. "It simply means the new cellular structure is integrating with your natural biology more completely than anticipated. We will continue to monitor the situation closely." Despite Xaver's reassurances, Alex noticed an increase in the testing and monitoring over the following days. Additional specialists were brought in, some wearing more elaborate containment suits than the others. They took frequent samples from his new arm and conducted lengthy analyses that they didn't fully explain to him. 10 days into the process, Alex woke in the middle of the night cycle to find 3 specialists in his room, scanning his arm while they thought he was asleep. When he opened his eyes, they seemed startled. "What's going on?" he demanded, sitting up in bed. The specialists exchanged glances before one of them responded. "Routine monitoring, human Powell. The regeneration process requires continuous assessment." "At what your station defines as 3 a.m., Alex challenged. "Something's wrong, isn't it?" After a moment of uncomfortable silence, one of the specialists sighed. "Chief Medical Officer Xaver will brief you in the morning. Please try to rest." Unable to get more information and too tired to argue further, Alex fell back into an uneasy sleep. When morning came, Xaver arrived with a larger team than usual, including a Volari wearing a distinctive red suit that Alex hadn't seen before. "Human Powell," Xaver began formally. "This is Director Nelvat from our research division. She has been overseeing your case from a scientific perspective." The red-suited Volari stepped forward. "Your regeneration process has presented unexpected developments," she stated without preamble. "The biosynthetic cellular matrix is exhibiting adaptive properties beyond our initial programming." Alex looked at his new arm, which now appeared almost completely normal except for a slightly lighter pigmentation than his natural skin. "Is that dangerous?" "Not dangerous," Nelvet clarified, "but unprecedented. The cells are not just replacing your lost limb, they are enhancing it. We have detected increased muscle fiber density, enhanced neural connectivity, and modified dermal resilience." Alex flexed his new hand, noting that it did feel stronger than he remembered his original arm being. "So you're saying I'm getting some kind of super arm?" "That would be an exaggeration," Xaver interjected, "but not entirely inaccurate. The modifications appear to be adaptive responses to your specific biology. In simple terms, the biosynthetic matrix is optimizing itself for human physiology in ways we did not anticipate." "Is this happening because I'm the first human to undergo this procedure?" Alex asked. Nelvat's head tilted in affirmation. "That is our leading theory. The interaction between our regenerative technology and human cellular structure has created a unique adaptation pattern. It is most interesting from a research perspective." "Great for your research," Alex said dryly, "but what does it mean for me long-term? Will there be side effects?" Xaver and Nelvat exchanged a glance that Alex couldn't interpret. "We cannot predict with certainty," Xaver admitted. "The enhancements appear stable and beneficial, but the long-term implications are unknown. This is why we have increased our monitoring protocols." "Which explains the middle-of-the-night scans," Alex noted. "Look, I appreciate the medical miracle you're performing here, but I need complete transparency. If something's happening to my body, I have a right to know." Director Nelvat seemed to consider this for a moment before responding. "You are correct, Human Powell. Full disclosure is appropriate at this stage. The adaptive properties we are observing may continue to evolve after the regeneration process is complete. Your new limb could potentially develop capabilities beyond normal human parameters." "What kind of capabilities?" Alex asked, both concerned and intrigued. "Enhanced strength and dexterity are already evident," Xaver explained. "We have also detected modifications to pain receptors that may result in increased tolerance to physical trauma. Additionally, the cellular structure shows improved regenerative properties, meaning the new tissue may heal more rapidly than your natural tissue if injured in the future." Alex sat back, trying to process this information. "So I'm becoming some kind of human-alien hybrid?" "No," Nelvat stated firmly. "The genetic foundation remains entirely human. The adaptations are occurring at a structural and functional level, not a genetic one. Your DNA is unchanged." "What we propose," Xaver continued, "is to complete the regeneration process as planned, but with enhanced monitoring both during your remaining time at Outpost Helios and after your return to the Meridian. We would provide you with a specialized monitoring device that would alert both you and our research team to any significant changes in the limb's properties." Alex considered his options. The regeneration was already well advanced. Reversing it now would likely be more dangerous than proceeding. And if he was being honest with himself, the prospect of enhanced capabilities was not entirely unwelcome. "All right," he finally agreed. "Continue the process, but I want daily updates on any changes you detect, no matter how small." Agreed, Xaver said, seeming relieved. We will proceed with the final phases of integration, with additional monitoring protocols in place. The remaining days of Alex's treatment passed with increased activity, as the medical team worked to complete the regeneration while closely tracking the ongoing adaptive changes. By day 16, his new arm was visually indistinguishable from his original one, save for a slightly more defined musculature and a faint line at the point where the regeneration had begun. On the final day of treatment, Xaver conducted a comprehensive assessment of the new limb's functionality. Alex was put through a series of increasingly complex tasks, from simple movements to fine motor control exercises that tested the limits of his dexterity. Grip strength exceeds baseline human parameters by approximately 32%, one specialist noted as Alex squeezed a pressure-sensitive device. Neural response time improved by 47%. How does it feel? Xaver asked as Alex completed a particularly intricate finger movement exercise. Strange, Alex admitted. It responds faster than I expect, and everything feels more intense, like the sensory input is heightened. Nelvat, who had become a regular presence during the final phase of treatment, made notes on her data pad. The enhanced neural connectivity we observed appears to be translating to improved sensory perception. This could provide valuable insights for future applications of our technology. As the final assessment concluded, Xaver presented Alex with a slim bracelet designed to be worn on his regenerated arm. This will monitor cellular activity and neural function, alerting both you and our research team to any significant changes. It also contains a communication module that will allow you to contact us directly if you experience any unusual symptoms. Alex slipped the bracelet onto his wrist, noting how it seemed to adjust itself to fit perfectly. And how long do I need to wear this? We recommend continuous monitoring for at least 6 standard months, Nelvat replied. By that time, we should have sufficient data to determine whether the adaptive process has stabilized. The following day, Alex prepared to return to the Meridian, which had remained docked at Outpost Helios throughout his treatment. His belongings had been brought from his quarters on the ship, including a fresh uniform to replace the one damaged in the explosion. As he dressed, Alex caught himself repeatedly examining his new arm, marveling at how perfect it looked and how natural it felt. He flexed his fingers, still somewhat surprised by the enhanced strength and speed of response. It was his arm, and yet not quite the same as before. Xaver arrived to escort him to the docking bay, accompanied by Nelvat and several of the specialists who had been involved in his treatment. As they walked through the corridors of the outpost, Alex noticed that other medical personnel stopped to observe him, clearly aware of his unique case. Your treatment has generated considerable interest within our medical community, Xaver explained, noticing Alex's awareness of the attention. The success of such complex regeneration in a human subject represents a significant advancement in interspecies medical cooperation. Happy to contribute to science, Alex replied, though I would have preferred a less painful way to do it. As they reached the docking bay, Alex was surprised to see Captain Morneau waiting alongside Tenril, Savar, and Errol, the Volari medical team from the Meridian who had initially treated him after the explosion. Powell, Captain Morneau greeted him with a nod. Good to see you in one piece again. Thank you, Captain, Alex replied, unconsciously flexing his new hand. It's good to be whole again. Tenril stepped forward, his large eyes blinking rapidly as he examined Alex's regenerated arm. Remarkable. The integration appears flawless. Human Powell demonstrated exceptional cellular compatibility with our regenerative matrix, Xaver informed the Meridian's medical team. We have provided him with a monitoring device to track ongoing adaptation, and we would appreciate your assistance in regular assessments during your journey. Of course, Savar agreed. We have received the protocols from your research division. We will ensure continued monitoring according to your specifications. As the formal handover of his medical care continued, Alex found himself looking back at Outpost Helios through the large viewport in the docking bay. The station that had been his home for over 2 weeks now seemed both familiar and strange, a place where he had been unmade and remade in ways he was still coming to understand. "Ready to return to duty?" Captain Morneau asked, bringing Alex's attention back to the present. "Yes, Captain," he replied confidently, "though I might need a few days before I'm back to handling explosives in the cargo bay." This earned a small smile from the captain. "You'll be on light duty for at least a week, Powell. Doctor's orders." She gestured to the Volari medical team. "Well, in that case," Alex said, flexing his new arm, "I'm looking forward to finding out what this enhanced version of me can do." As they boarded the Meridian and prepared for departure, Alex took one last look at the Volari medical team that had literally rebuilt him. Xaver raised a 4-fingered hand in what Alex recognized as a gesture of respect. "Remember, Human Powell," the chief medical officer said, "your monitoring bracelet connects directly to our research division. Do not hesitate to contact us if you experience any unusual developments." "Will do, Doc," Alex promised. "And thank you for everything." The docking bay doors closed, and Alex felt the slight vibration that indicated the Meridian was disengaging from the outpost. As he made his way back to his quarters, crew members he passed looked curiously at his arm, clearly having heard about his extraordinary medical treatment. In the privacy of his room, Alex stood before the mirror, examining his reflection. He looked the same as before the accident, yet he knew he was fundamentally changed, not just physically, with his enhanced arm, but in his understanding of what was possible when different species worked together. He raised his regenerated arm, turning it in the light, watching the natural movement of muscles under skin that had not existed 2 weeks ago. Then he clenched his fist, feeling the power that exceeded what he had known before. "Just a flesh wound," he murmured to himself with a small smile, recalling his words to the Volari medics immediately after the explosion. The understatement of the century. As the Meridian pulled away from Outpost Helios and prepared to resume its journey to the frontier colonies, Alex Powell contemplated the unexpected turn his life had taken. What had begun as a catastrophic injury had become an opportunity for groundbreaking medical advancement, and perhaps a new chapter in human-alien cooperation. Whatever changes might still lie ahead with his extraordinary new arm, Alex was certain of one thing: the universe had just become a much more interesting place.